Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted to be joined by Elliot Grigg. We are once again in preview mode. We are in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, for this unified world cruiserweight title fight between Gilberto Ramirez and Chris Billam-Smith. It's a cracking fight, Elliot. It's a unification, but before we get stuck into it, given our preview and our 10 cents worth, please do like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop us a comment on what you think about this fight and what we're about to discuss. So yeah, plenty of content, all under one roof. So please do check out the rest of the channel and get to know ESBR if you don't already. Elliot, as I said, ZURDO CBS, unification for the WBA and WBO World Cruiserweight titles. Arguably two of the best in the world. But I'm saying they're two of the best in the world. I'm not saying they are the best in the world because I think that mantle many believe belongs to Jai OPETAIA. But what I want to know is, do you believe that either Gilberto Ramirez or Chris Billam-Smith could beat the one, the only Jai OPETAIA? What are your thoughts on that?
I'll keep this short and sweet and say absolutely not. No, I don't think either man can beat Jai OPETAIA. I really don't. I think Jai OPETAIA is a special fighter. I think in a weird way, like the division isn't strong enough to hold Jai OPETAIA. I would like to see Jai OPETAIA unify, frankly, and just go up. Really, as soon as you can do that, as quickly as you can do that, I think for me, he's been kind of the last couple of fights OPETAIA's had for me haven't been great. I'm going to take over fights. You fight against sort of opposition which is nowhere near at his level. I do think I think both men would provide maybe a different challenge to OPETAIA. Personally, I think obviously Ramirez has been his experience, obviously southpaw, but I think Billam-Smith for me would provide the harder night. I think Billam-Smith would be more game in some ways. I think he'd throw the kitchen sink at necessarily at OPETAIA, but both men I think would lose. I think both men would actually be stopped. I think OPETAIA stop both of them. I really do. Maybe not saying be early, but I think he'd stop them sort of mid rounds, mid sort of mid to late rounds. I think for me, I think it's a golfing class. To be honest with you, I think the division's good enough to hold him. But this is a good fight. But I think if either man steps up to Jai OPETAIA, it'd be a loss in the loss column, definitely.
Yeah, I can't disagree with what you said. I mean, maybe some people might think we're a little too high on Jai OPETAIA, but he's a special fighter. He really, really is. Again, it's interesting because none of us knew who he was before he fought Maris Briedis the first time. It was just like, oh, he's an Australian fighter he's got a padded record. He's not going to be that good. And then look at him now. Unbelievable. Yeah, I don't see either man beating Jai OPETAIA, to be honest. I can't think of any cruiserweight fighters that would beat Jai OPETAIA right now. I want to echo what you've said and the sentiments you've made there, Elliot. I think if you're looking at Jai OPETAIA, I think he will unify. I think he could become undisputed if he wants to do that. And then, yeah, heavyweight's got to be the move, hasn't it? I mean, he's not enormous, but he could hold his own. We've seen Usyk do so and become undisputed. Could Jai OPETAIA do that in the future? Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, for me, for my money, I don't think ZURDO or CBS beat Jai OPETAIA, but it could be proved wrong. The winner of this fight on Saturday night could go on to maybe face Jai OPETAIA in 2025. I'd love to see that. So then obviously you'd have three belts on the line, whether or not you can get that other one added to it as well to make it an undisputed fight. We shall see. But yeah, I don't think either Gilberto Ramirez or Chris Billam-Smith beat Jai OPETAIA. I totally agree, mate. So yeah, it's going to take some stopping for Jai OPETAIA. But this isn't totally about Jai OPETAIA. This video, this is of course about ZURDO Ramirez and Chris Billam-Smith. And what I want in your eyes, I think you and I have discussed a bit about Gilberto Ramirez maybe having one of the most padded records in boxing. Up until lately, I will give him his credit. He has kind of risen. When he was super middleweight, I think he was very padded. But then he obviously had that light heavyweight fight with Dimitri Bivol, comprehensively outboxed, and then it's been actually looked pretty good, I think, since going to cruiserweight. So to be fair to him, to give him his credit, he has had a few tough fights recently. But what I want to know is, who do you make the favourite here? Obviously, the bookmakers have a favourite. I was surprised. I just had a quick glance. Gilberto Ramirez is a pretty overriding favourite, actually. I think you can get odds of better than 2-1 for CBS just to win. Do you think that's unfair and an unfair reflection, CBS? Or do you agree with him? Do you have Gilberto Ramirez as a pretty big favourite here?
I do think that's unfair. I actually have to say, I mean, look, you look at the last couple of fights out, and obviously Ramirez got good wins over Gilberto and Joe Smith Jr. Fair play, but I've actually so you say, yeah, he's actually trending, I suppose, quite positively in that way. But I've actually been disappointed with Ramirez every single time I've watched him. You can't criticise the Bivol loss. Bivol's obviously an elite fighter, so you can't really look into that at all. But I don't think Ramirez is as good as as his record, as his sort of padded record would suggest. To be perfectly honest with you, I really don't. I think I actually prefer Billam-Smith. I really do. I think like Billam-Smith's obviously kind of Shane's got him going. He's got him firing. Very good win against the Cody. Never thought he'd come through that. Rear Paul was quite disappointing, but Billam-Smith handled him very, very convincingly. I was surprised with the easy. And then I feel like Billam-Smith just provides a kind of urgency and a sort of grit and a durability that I don't think Ramirez is necessarily gonna cope with in the same way. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a conditioned fighter as well. I don't think he's going to sort of gas necessarily, but I think Billam-Smith, just for me, has the kind of momentum and the actual, I suppose, skill set and tactics to actually beat Ramirez. So I actually, to be honest with you, prefer Billam-Smith in this fight. I really do. I don't want to give my predictions too soon, but I prefer Billam-Smith. I think that's wide. Even to say 2-1 as well, I think for me is quite shocking. Even I suppose you say Billam-Smith doesn't have a Gullamarian, doesn't have a Joe Smith Jr. on his record. I still think there's enough there in recent performances to suggest that seems wide for the bookies, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's far too wide from the bookies. I can see why he's the favorite, and don't get me wrong, I expected Ramirez to be a favorite, to be honest. But the wideness of those, the disparity of those odds, kind of did surprise me a little bit. Um, yeah. What my comments on it would be that yeah, I think Zurdo Ramirez is a deserved favorite. I can see why that is the case, but I think they're maybe writing off Chris Billam-Smith a little too much. I mean, I think yeah, I think I don't really know why they're going so one sided there in favour of Zurdo, but I mean, maybe the bookies know something that we don't. It could be the southpaw stance of Ramirez. I suppose that Billam-Smith, maybe we haven't seen him against too many southpaws. So that could be a problem for him. But equally, as you said, I think Shane McGuigan will have an astute game plan for Zurdo Ramirez. And yeah, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if he was to pull it off. Prediction time. You kind of alluded to it there. Who you might be going for, but please confirm, Elliot. Who are you going for, Zurdo or CBS?
You know, this is where it's tough because, in a way, I look at both of these. I think for first predictions, I think this fight will go the full distance. Don't see a stoppage coming in this fight. So, in a way, you can maybe see Ramirez could outpoint CBS. He could, of course. Southpaw quite tricky. But I almost feel like CBS has got the conditioning, as they both are saying, got the conditioning. But he's almost like he's got the urgency. I think, and every single time I've watched Ramirez, I've been surprised at how kind of slow and ponderous he seems. So I almost feel like CBS comparatively will actually be quicker than Ramirez. I feel like hand speed. I feel like we've seen against Rickport can get in and out. We've seen with the Coley kind of mix it on the inside as well, with Billam-Smith, and he can sort of box to a plan as well. So I actually think this is going to be CBS points. I really do. I think I'm really sort of I'm quite confident in that prediction, but I'm kind of thrown by the fact that no one else seems to be the bookies either. But I really think CBS points is coming in here. And in fact, when we leave this call, Paul, I'm actually going to go to those betting sites that you were referring to there and place what can we describe as a modest wager on the CBS to prevail.
I mean, I people might watch this and think, "No, standard." Two people from the UK backing the Brit. That's not the case. Like so often, that's not the case. Here, it might well be, but that's not because we're just backing the Brit out of kind of wanting them to win or whatever. Not letting that cloud my judgment. I genuinely believe Chris Billam-Smith wins this fight. I agree with you. I think part of the reason might be I'm done writing off Chris Billam-Smith, to be perfectly honest. I really like him as a fighter, but I have backed numerous fighters to beat him. I thought Reactor was going to beat him last time out. Oh, how wrong was I? Me, I even thought Tommy McCarthy was maybe going to beat him. I thought Isaac Chamberlain was going to beat him. I thought Lawrence Okoli was definitely going to beat him. Been wrong every single time. So I'm not going to sit here and say that Chris Billam-Smith's going to lose this fight, to be honest, because it just seems to have something, don't they? Him and Shane McGuigan seem to have this connection, this working relationship, and they just seem to pull it off time and time again. And I think they're going to do the same against Zurdo Ramirez. I think he could frustrate Ramirez. I agree with what you've said. This is definitely going the distance for me. We could see this going the full 36 minutes, being close enough, but the gentleman will win on points, in my opinion. I totally agree with you. Guys, if you're watching this video, please let us know in the comments your thoughts on this fight, whether or not you think Chris Billam-Smith can become unified champion of the world, or indeed, will that belong to Zurdo Ramirez? Do either man have a chance against OPETAIA? Could either of these two fighters become undisputed at cruiserweight? Let us know in the comments, and as always, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Elliot, pleasure as always previewing with you, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you very much, Paul. As always, guys, thank you very much for watching.